This is lesson 4.2, Placing Doors and Windows. In this lesson you will learn how to create doors and windows. You will learn how to insert doors and windows accurately. You will learn how to create demolition doors and windows, and you will learn how to use door and window styles. Back to Vectorworks. Let's start placing doors and windows. Now at the moment I'm using the Fundamentals workspace, which we use for a large part of this course. However, walls, doors and windows, roofs and slabs are only available if you're using one of the designer workspaces. So choose one of the designer workspaces. Architect, Architect BIM, Braceworks, Designer, and in this case I'm just going to choose Landmark. When I've chosen Landmark, you'll find that I have a lot more tools to choose from. And this object here is a door object. When I click on it and bring my cursor into the drawing area, I have a door attached to my cursor. Now if you want to get rid of the door attached to your cursor, don't click, go back to your selection tool here. Choose that and it'll stop placing doors. So let's learn about doors. So there's a door. When I move near a wall, the door highlights the wall and the door actually rotates to be in line with that wall. We have preferences for our doors. Let's have a look at our door tool preferences. At the moment I'm using my size reference structural opening, so any size that I put in here for the width and the height will be the hole in the wall. That is the structural opening. If you'd rather use the unit size, then it ignores the hole in the wall and it's just the size of the frame. You can also choose the leaf size. So if you want to specify your door by its leaf size, let's make it 30 inches wide. Then that specifies a 30-inch wide leaf, and then the frame goes on top of that. I tend to specify mine by structural opening size, because I tend to know what my jamb is, and I like to have my jamb the right thickness and my leaf the right size. However, for this example, let's try leaf size. Now the challenge with leaf size, of course, is that when you get to a double door, it's both leaves put together, whereas a structural opening is sometimes easier to think of. So there's my width, 2'6". I might make that 34 inches wide. And there's my height, 6'9". If you're using the metric file, you might want to go 870 millimeters and make that 2 meters high. I'm not going to talk about symbol geometry, but symbol geometry gives us the ability to create quite complex shaped doors by using symbols. We can put a fan light or a transom above it. We can turn that off. Now just notice that when you choose fan light and we're using leaf size, it adds the fan light to the top. If we set this to be structural opening and we add a fan light, it actually shortens my door. So be careful of those choices that you've made. Leaf size. So here we are, we've got a single leaf. That can be an opening, which is just a hole in the wall. It can be a cased opening, so it's got the jambs on it. It can be a single leaf, double leaf, a pocket single, which I call a cavity slider. It can be bifolding, double, it can be double swing, double leaf. It can be a slider, so sliding doors like a closet, or it can be a complex swing or an overhead door. The complex swing allows you to choose the type of opening that you want. So I've got 00XX, so I've got 2 fixed panes and then 2 opening ones in the middle. Let's go back to single leaf. So I'm just going to put in a single door. What kind of 2D visualization? So I'm going to use to set my attributes by object. If I want to, I can actually set line styles for each individual part of my door, or I can use classes for each individual part of my door. I'm going to choose object. If you turn on draw wall lines, you'll get 2 lines through here where your door breaks a hole in the wall. Let's turn that off. We want to see our plane detail, otherwise we won't see much. We've got slab and swings on my sills class. I might want to put those on a specific class. So for example, I might have class called door-main. So all my doors are on the main class. When I turn off the door main class, it will turn everything off. And I'm going to OK that because I don't want to set any attributes for that. If I have a header, I can put on the ceiling class. The 2D loci are on non-plot, so I can turn those off. And if it's an overhead door, it's on the ceiling overhead class. We can have 3D visualization, so we can show the exterior marker, and we can put that on a specific class if we want. So we can create a new class, door dash arrows. Now there's a lot to this, so I don't want to spend too long doing it, but let's go here. We're going to make this no fill. It's going to be a dashed line, and it's going to be a long single dash. Where's my long, not double dashed? That one will do. Select that one, and OK. So there are a lot of settings that we can go through. Let's go through just the important ones. The jam, there's my jam width. I'm going to use the wall depth, so regardless of the thickness of my wall, this is always going to have exactly the right depth. The shim gap is the difference between the frame size and the structural opening, and you can put in 1/4 of an inch or 6 millimeters or 12 millimeters either side if you need to have an additional size in your hole. My leaf is flushed, glazed, or it's a panel. So if I need a glazed door, I can choose glazed. My top rail is 3 inches, my left, right 3 inches, my bottom rail 12 inches, and that'll give me a very deep bottom rail here. I can put glazing bars, and I just want to leave those alone at the moment. So that's enough for us to get started. If you want to go into more detail about this door, then you need to have a look at my Building Information Modeling course for architects or landscapers, where we go into a lot more detail about this door. Let's click OK. So there's my door. So let's move near a wall. I'll click once. If I move outside the building, my door swings out. If I move inside the building, the door swings in. I can move the door out, swing it left, swing it right, and click to place it. And that has placed my door there. So we've got door main. Let's turn that off, and I'm left with that. I think I have sills down here. Let's turn off my sills. And there's also a ceiling overhead. Let's turn that off, and ceiling main. And the ceiling main controls those lines that run across the door. You can see them there. So that's the easy way to insert a door. Let me just go over that again. So we go to a position that we want, click. We go to the swing that we want. We move our cursor left or right, swing the door in or out, click, and it places the door for us. Very well. So let's just have a look here, and when I zoom in, you'll see that my cursor is on the center of the door. If I click on the left side, you'll see that my cursor is now stuck on the left side. Let's just turn off my snap to grid. So now when I place my door, I can find a location, click, choose which I want to swing it, swing the door, click, and that will place my door. But what about if we actually place this more accurately? So I've just zoomed in. I'm going to use the second mode here, the offset insertion. Now, just before we go and choose offset insertion, make sure you've chosen this mode first, the alignment point. You've got to choose the alignment point before you choose the offset. When I choose my offset insertion mode, you might notice I no longer have my door stuck to my cursor. Because Vectorworks, just up here, it's looking for a reference point. So I click here to start, that's my reference point. Then I choose the wall. Now don't worry about which way the door's swinging. You just click on the wall. Do I want to put in that wall or this wall? Click. Now we choose the swing. Do we want to swing that way, and so on. Now I've clicked here for my reference point, and I've clicked there for my jam. And if I click here, I'll be measuring from my reference point to the start of my jam. If I move my door back towards my reference point, my dimension will be from my reference point to the finish of the jam. So let's put that in at 4 inches, 100 millimeters. And there's my door exactly 4 inches away from that intersection of the wall. Let me do that again. So click, come along the wall, click, let's go that way. Which way do you want to swing? You might notice I move away from my measuring point. Click, 4 inches again, enter. And that's how you insert the doors with a high level of accuracy. If you want to go back to the standard insertion mode, then you need to bring your cursor into the drawing area. Then you can change back to one of these modes. Now I can find the center of that room, choose my door swing, click OK. So that's the strategy for inserting your doors in your walls. If we wanted to cover a door that was going into a demolished wall, So let's go back to our door tool. I put a door in here. This is going into a demolished wall. Now you might notice that it doesn't pick up the demolished look of that door. If I go to my Object Info palette and I choose to put that on the same class as the wall, so wall demo, then it should pick up the same graphic attributes as that wall. By the way, these doors are all on the None class. It's just the way I've been inserting them. They should really be on their own class so that I can turn them on and off when I need them. Usually I use a class called Door Main for that. That gives me an ability to turn off my doors without turning off all of my walls. Let me select those doors again. Let's just have a look at what options we've got for a door. So we've got here that it's a full break without caps. You may have noticed previously when I turned off my doors, the walls just looked like there was something missing in the middle. Let's choose full break with caps, and let's turn off my doors again. And you'll now notice that the door hole looks like a hole. It actually looks like the wall stops and starts adjacent to the door. Let's turn our doors back on. Now we might be reusing this door a lot. So one of the tricks we've got with Vectorworks is to right click on this and to create this as a style. New plugin style from unstyled plugin. So let's click OK. Now this door was 810 millimeters, I think. So I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it D02, or we could call it D810, 810 millimeters, or what's that? 2'7" and 7/8, 2'8", call it. And OK. So this is a glazed door. So the leaf is glazed. Maybe we should call this our glazed door. Glazed. Let's call it glazed. So it's a glazed door. It's got a frame around it. And so in 3D it should have glass in it. Let's look at the next door. This one here, it's still a glazed door, but I want to change that. So I'm going to change that. Down here I'm going to find the jam and the leaf, and we'll make that a flush door, and we'll right click on that door again, and we'll make a plugin style. So this is going to be, what was it? It was D810, and this was flush. So the idea of creating these as styles means that I can now swap them. So if I look at this door here, I can go up to here where it's got my style, and I can choose to replace that, and I can replace that with my D810 glazed. So select and OK. And you can see they're now both glazed. I can select this one, and I can replace that one, and I can replace this one with my flush door. Let's select that and OK. And so that gives you an ability to have a consistent set of doors. This also applies to Windows, but a consistent set of objects that you can then control. Let's go back up to here and we'll have a look at our glazed door. So I'll just make this other door glazed as well. So let's go back to this style, let's replace that style, and we're going to choose 810 glazed, select and OK. So both those doors are the same and neither is currently selected. I'm going to go back up to my resource manager here, find that door, and I'm going to edit the door. So when I edit this door, I can control, or I can choose, which parts of my door are controlled by the style. Let's just have a look here under General. So under General, we want to control it by the structural opening. We want to make that 30 inches wide. Maybe let's make it substantially wider. Let's make it 34 inches wide. So you notice it got quite a bit wider. Let's change the leaf shape. So we're going to have glazed, the thickness, the top rail, let's make it 6 inches wide, 6 inches, and 16 inches there. So we've changed these, so we've made it quite a bit fatter. It's just an example. I just wanted to show you what we can do. So let's come back to what we've got going on here. We just need to have a look at this icon. This icon is telling you that this particular parameter is being controlled by the object style. If I click on that, I now have these sliding bars, or sliding bars. And these bars are telling you that this parameter, this one here, will be flexible. You'll be able to edit this. So let's change that as well, and we'll make that 2 meters. Click OK. Now you may have noticed that both those doors changed. What we have the ability to do now is to change the width of this individually. So 34 inches. Although they're the same style, they are now different widths. This one can be 24 inches or 600 millimeters. If I go back to that glazed door, let's edit that again, I'm going to control these a lot more firmly. So I'm going to choose that. I'm going to make this 34 inches wide, or let's make it 910 millimeters, and the height is going to be, better make sure I use millimeters, and the height is going to be 2010 millimeters, and I've changed those now. So what this means is that now that I've changed those to the curvy arrows, I will no longer have individual control over the widths of those two doors. And when I click OK, you'll see them both change. Actually, to make it really clear, let's change this back to 3 inches, 75 mil, 3 inches, bottom rail 300 millimeters or 12 inches. And that should be a change. Let's make it a bit shorter. Let's make it 8 inches or about 200 millimeters. And OK. And both doors changed because now the style is controlling the width and the size of the stiles and so on. So styled objects, styled doors in this case, they offer you this wonderful flexibility about which objects you're controlling and which objects you're leaving to be flexible. Let's go back up to here and we'll edit that one again. We haven't talked about the ID tag. So the ID tag we might want to include on schedule. We want to show the schedule or show the tag in 2D, and we don't want to change that so much, but we might want to change the number. We might want to fix this onto a particular door class. Again, it doesn't have the slidey bars, so it's controlled by the style. Okay, and in plan view we should see that they've both got the door number. So the door number is flexible. I can change the number of the door, but the fact that it's on the schedule or the fact that it's got the number is not flexible. So good so far. Let's have a look at windows. Now windows are very similar to doors. We've spent a lot of time looking at how we insert doors and control their styles. Let's have a look at windows. So we've still got our window preferences here at the top, and that opens up our window preferences, and we can choose the window shape. It can be circular windows and oval windows and rectangular, and with the top shape, and whether it's a fixed light opening, whether it's sliding, horizontal sliding, top hung I quite often use. What the 2D visualization looks like. Remember we talked about this with classes or line styles. The ID tag, we want to include that. We want to show that. And we want that on the class called door spec. I quite often use the same class for doors and windows because I don't want to control them separately. Is it a corner window? What sort of jamb have we got? What sort of sash have we got? What sill do we want to put in? And so on. There's a lot of information we can put in here. And I'm going to OK that. And now what I can do is to put that window in. So if I use my standard insertion mode, I can find the center of my room. If I use my insert object left and then my offset insertion mode, I can click, go along the wall, move away from my reference point. Notice my cursor's just over here. Click, and I want that to be 4 inches. And that's a very accurate, very quick way of putting that window in. If I right click on that window, I can create a plugin style. So I'm going to create a series of plugin window styles, and this is going to be an 800 millimeter window, or W800. And if I go back to my general size, here's my structural opening. Again, I can use the unit size, the sash opening, or the structural opening. I want this to be 800 millimeters wide, and I want the height to be 1200 millimeters, about 4 feet high, and the elevation in the wall 2050 millimeters. It's just, these are just heights that I like, and it's to the head of the window. And I can choose whether or not I'm measuring to the head of the window or the sill of the window. So having done all of this, I can also my 2D, 3D visualization, I want to see the exterior marker. The marker wants to be on the door arrows class. As I said, I quite often use the same class for both doors and windows. And cool, there it is there. And now what I can do, because I've got a window 800, I can right click, let's make a copy, so we'll duplicate that. And this is going to be called a window 200. So I'm going to make a little skinny window, only 200 millimeters or 8 inches wide. Here it is here. So right click, let's edit that. Under general, the width is only 200 millimeters. Everything else is the same. Let's just come down here. Maybe that width's just a little bit skinny. I'm just going to leave it. So jam and sash, we've got a jam width of only 1 inch or 25 millimeters. And the sash width is 1.5 inches. And so it gives me a little bit of a glazed window. And OK. So now what I can do is I can do the replace that we've done previously. So I can now replace that window with my window 200 and select and OK. And so if I create a series of windows that I like to use, it becomes very quick to insert these. Up here I go, I want to use my 800 wide window, and I might want to go back to my standard insertion mode, back to my center mode, and there's my window there, goes in there, and we just have to check to make sure we can control the window number. So here when I hide style parameters, I can't change the window numbers. So that was a mistake that I made. I can fix it though by going back to this, back to the edit, back to my ID tag, and I forgot to unlock that one. And when I do that, I can edit that window, and I also need to do the same for this one. And I should have done that before I went too far. ID tag, that one, okay. Now I can change the window number. So that should be window 1, this should be window 2, that's 02, and this one should be 03. And so that's the strategy. What I'd like you to do next is to create some more doors, put doors in here, try making double doors, put some doors here to go outside, put some more windows around the plan. Make sure you create more styles. The reason I want you to make those window styles is that once you've created them, they sit in your resource manager. From your resource manager, you can either export them or import them into other projects. So I can actually drag that window and I can drop it into another job here, let go, and I've now copied that window into my Untitled 1 project. There it is there. So it means that once you've created your windows accurately once, you can then use them as a library and put them into other projects. This is the end of lesson 4.2. In this lesson you learned how to create doors and windows, you learned how to insert doors and windows accurately, you learned how to create demolition doors and windows, and you learned how to use window and door styles.